So first off, if you've not heard of Prompty, it's this awesome extension that when you're working with LLMs and prompts, it unifies the prompt and its execution for you in a single package. This way you can quickly run and test and even iterate over your prompts. So if you haven't already, check it out. Now, as I was going through the Prompty documentation, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of everything being in dark mode, I realized that some parts of the documentation, specifically the code blocks, were a little painful to look at. There might be an issue or a bug with how theming is being applied, and since Prompty is an open source project, the first thought that comes to mind is how I can make a contribution. So I head over to the repository, I look through the issues, and I see that Nitya had opened an issue already a while back and it's yet to be assigned. Now the truth is I'm not familiar with this project at all. So while I may have an idea of what needs to be fixed, I need a feature like GitHub Workspace to help me get started easily and fast. So right from the issue, scroll down to the Open Workspace button. Now we see our issue definition on the left, and next to it is this brainstorm page. So you see how you'd invite a couple of your colleagues or friends to a brainstorming meeting to think through a problem, or in this case a bug. Now this is the equivalent of that in a Copilot native developer environment. GitHub Workspace starts a quick brainstorm for a proposed solution with a before versus after glance. So at the top, I see the current state of the code, and right below it, I see what the solution could look like after we execute the plan. You can edit these items, since in as much as this is a Copilot native environment, you are still in charge, you are the pilot, so you can do whatever it is you want to do. After a brainstorm session, you typically get an action plan with what to implement. And again, GitHub Workspace is a step ahead as it identifies the changes needed, puts them into a plan, and once you approve this plan, the changes to the code are implemented instantly. Now, at first, as I look through these changes, they aren't exactly what I wanted. So I'll go back to the brainstorm stage to remove anything that is irrelevant and add clear instructions, then update the plan. And overall, as you can see, this is an iterative process. And the good thing is that you can also make direct edits to the code yourself. Then a key principle when working with AI code generation tools is trust but verify. So before even raising the PR, I'll need to open the code with the implemented changes in a code space just to quickly test them out. As I mentioned earlier, I am completely unfamiliar with this code base and the project structure, so I'll ask Copilot for help to bring me up to speed. It does a fantastic job and even gives me commands that I can run directly on my terminal to get the site up and running to preview the website. So up to this point, I completely love how I'm doing all this without having to move around from page to page. Now I can test the changes. They look good so far, but I see I have some text that isn't quite there yet, and it looks like there's an unexpected behavior or stage. And I also see some styling here that I suspect may not be very necessary. So I'll ask Copilot for some additional assistance, and after going through its explanation, I decide to comment out the code and see what gets affected. Alright, so after all this, I make a call to remove the extra style and keep it as simple as possible just to avoid any additional conflicts. Up to this point, I'm happy with the changes and Copilot can still do more. So I'll have it generate a commit message for me based on the minor changes that I've made. To be honest, I hit a bit of an issue, a permissions issue at this point, and I wasn't able to fork the project following these prompts. So I forked it manually, and just before submitting the PR, one last time, Copilot helps me to generate a good enough PR summary that will make it easier for the reviewer to understand the changes that I am introducing. And that's it. GitHub Workspace truly has great potential to streamline the developer workflow from issue to spec to brainstorming ideas and down to implementing changes in your code and even getting the PR in place. So sign up for the preview, test it out, and let us know what you think of this feature. Cheers and happy coding.